Yes. Okay. It is 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Fruit Heights City Council meeting. My name is John Pullman, and we're the mayor of the city. We're holding this with an anchor location at 910 South Mountain Road, Fruit Heights City, Utah, 84037. We are going to begin with a pledge of allegiance. It's going to be led by Gary Anderson, and an opening ceremony by Diane Anderson. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful to be in this setting. We're grateful for this great city and the country that we live in. We thank you for our freedoms, and we thank you for the opportunity to serve in our Fruit Heights City. We're grateful for the residents, and we pray thy greatest blessings to come down on them, to help them in their homes and in their families. We're grateful for the works that have been done in our city, and pray that they'll bless our city workers in all their arenas, that they will be protected and that they'll be wise in their work. We pray for that spirit this hour, that we can be clear in our discussions and be intelligent and thoughtful as we review these matters. We thank thee again for thy many blessings and the privilege to serve. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Diane. We're going to move on to item number 1.2, which is roll call. Brandon?
Councilmember Diane Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Florence Sadler.
Here.
Councilmember George Ray.
Here.
Councilmember Eileen Moss.
Here.
Mayor John Pullman.
Here. Excellent. We're going to move on to, thank you everyone for being here tonight. We're going to move on to item number 1.3, which is city council training. We put this on our agenda and set this time aside every city council meeting to have one of the city council members train on our responsibilities as an elected official. So, George Ray, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. In my reading this last week, I was reading government records and public access to them. So I'm going to share with you some of the things I read. All cities and towns must comply with the Government Records Access Management Act. The intent of the act is to make it possible for all public records of the government to be available to the public while protecting the privacy right of the individuals. Most records of the city and town must be public and available at reasonable times and places for inspection and copying. There are possible criminal sanctions for individuals who wrongfully refuse access to a record and for individuals who wrongfully disclose a properly classified record. For the record, that means we can't keep it in our basements at our resorts, just to be clear on that. Every city and town must comply with the act. Each must appoint one or more records officers who are individuals appointed by the chief administrative office of the city or town to work with state archives in the care and maintenance of scheduling, designation, classification, disposal, and preservation of records. The act requires your record officer or our record officer to make sure that you provide designation classification of the city or town records. The words designation classification refer to the act of placing individual records or record series in one of 4 classifications: public, private, controlled, or protected. Most records must be public. Every person has a right to inspect a public record free of charge during normal business hours of the city or town. And in today's age, I would think it'd be an expectation that 24/7 on a website for most public records would be an expectation, at least I would have. The public also has a right to have a copy of a public record. If the city or town fails to provide the requested records or issue a denial within the specified time period when they request a record, the failure is considered the equivalent of a determination of denying access to the record, which is a criminal offense, as I mentioned before, that we have to provide those. The law contains an appeal process for those wishing to either appeal a classification decision or an access decision. The cities and towns must, by ordinance, set up their own appeals process. The ordinance can also assist the city in document management issues, such as retention schedules and fees for copying. The ordinance adopted must meet the standards of the law and be filed with the state archivist. If an ordinance is not adopted, then the provisions of the state law apply. and I unfortunately don't know whether we have our own ordinance or if we defer to the state law. The state of Utah provides a state records ombudsman to help with disputes about records requests. The ombudsman can be reached through the Utah State Archives office. Members of the public, including the news media, have a right to view and have copies of most records created in the city or town. It is the city or town's obligation to keep these records in a manner that makes inspection of them convenient. One of the services that should be provided to the public is reasonable and timely access to public records and information.
Whoa, 1 second left, man.
Yes.
Thank you, George. That's actually really appropriate. I appreciate that information.
And
Thank
then
you.
Gary will do our next meeting in November.
You all right with that, Gary?
Thank you,
Excellent.
George.
Moving on to item number 3, which is public comment period. This is set aside for the public to address anything that they like with the city council. Do we have anything tonight? Sure. Would you mind stepping up and say your name in the microphone, Andy? Sure. Thank you for coming tonight.
My name is Andy Bush. I live at 1693 Consumer Parkway. A couple of comments. First, thanks for sharing. Some of you guys have been doing this for a long time. Thank you for doing it. I want to thank the city also, Brandon, for getting some documents available on the Agenda Center, which is something that I asked for a while, and we've been doing it for a while. So I appreciate that. I find this to be very useful and I read every one of them. I'm also 65 years old. I've been on Facebook for any reason, so I'm going to see the live stream of this council meeting. So now I'm here, and here's my question. So tonight you guys are talking about the general plan, and I'm not for current. I'd like to share with you the data points I have from when I touched this room, and I've heard things go on. And if you are going to address my questions when we get to the agenda item on the general plan, then I'll further answer to that. But here's what I see. A year ago, we had something in this room, the landmark design, and there were stickies on pieces of paper and all that stuff. Never heard anything about it. Just sort of went away. I don't know where it is, I don't know why we did it. I saw something in the Ridge Runner from several months ago, I couldn't find it offhand. It said cemetery is being planned or considered, but it did specifically mention the Ridge Runner. The cemetery, something's going on. So I go to the first landmark design product that's in the agenda center. And what I see is something that deals with housing on a golf course. I don't know what that is. It's good, the tax analysis for the analysis of alternatives. But I don't know why we're doing it, and I don't know why, and I'm not a golfer, and I don't know why there isn't some consideration for commercial retail space, which is what I think the city tax base needs more than 500 more homes. The second thing I see is another landmark design project that I think is what you guys are going to talk about tonight, and it focuses on the moderate income housing. So I don't know if I'm missing a product or a process that pulls this all together, because I don't know where it's at. And so I've sort of revealed to you my questions, and if you want to talk about it when we get to that part of the agenda.
So I think I can answer, and I can start answering your questions, and thanks for coming. Like, that's a great question, and I'm pleased that you're so informed. So about a year and a half ago, we received a grant from the Wasatch Regional Council to redo our ordinances. The landmark design, the general plan. What this is an entire process and an entire plan. What you've seen snippets of are just pieces of this. The final product is something that will be discussed. It's nothing hidden. It's what we hope this city will look like in the future. Going back to the golf course is not owned by the city. And so what landmark design did is, and what we are trying to implement is, if the county gave up the golf course, we have a general plan, and we're telling the future owner of that land what we see happen with that. That's only if there's a whole bunch of ifs and buts with this whole statement. There is some commercial in there. It's actually, the whole center of that is commercial, and then as it goes further out, there are additional homes. Secondly, you asked about cemetery. Cemetery is something that we have discussed in length. We have it is something that we have received quite a bit of interest from residents about doing. But as a mayor and city council, we are unwilling to sink $1 million into a project of that size that would benefit just a small handful of residents. So it's something that we are planning for, but also looking for ways that it could be funded and it could be managed in a very fiscally responsible manner.
Is that not within the scope of what Landmark is doing for us? I kind of took away from the town hall we had that there was a discussion on many things to include open space, which is the area obviously around
Right. So it is not part of the general plan. That is outside of the general plan. The cemetery is a project that the city council, city staff are working towards if it's possible.
But it is talked about in the general plan draft that we have as far as recommendations for it, so it's interesting you talked about the comments and everything, all those sticky notes, because I'm sitting here looking at our general plan draft and all those sticky notes, all those little things, everything anybody wrote is right on our thing for tonight.
But that will go tonight. Yes, Brandon, go ahead.
So this is just being presented tonight because we are going to be holding an open house and bringing Landmark Design in again and inviting the residents of the city to come in and look at the general plan one final time. I'm presenting this to the council because I've gotten finally a draft of the general plan. I want them to look through it, become familiar with it, so that when we're all in here in an open house, they know what's going on and they're not being just cued into getting a rough draft or a draft of the general plan. So it has not been adopted. We will be setting a date in the very near future, but I don't want to set a date around holidays because that doesn't bode very well with residents either. So I want to make sure that we do it right.
The plan you're referring to though, is that the one that's hanging on the agenda center for tonight?
Yeah, it's this one right here.
There's the draft.
There's the moderate income housing
I
plan.
only saw the moderate income housing, so I need to go look back and look at it.
Well,
Okay, fine.
it says it's 144 pages
Well,
long.
everything you put on there is 140. I know where every directory is going to be hung in rock block.
Well,
Okay,
to answer your question about the moderate income housing, that's a mandate from the state that we're having to address, but it's all in the discussion stage.
I will, if this ain't on the agenda center, the general plan.
Look on page 126. All the
Yeah.
notes.
Here's a good one.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you so much.
It's great seeing you. Anyone else? Not seeing or hearing anything, we're going to move on to item number 4.1. Brandon, review, discuss the draft general plan.
So we, Landmark Design has been working
on this general plan.
for a while now, and we are.
Can I, testing 1, 2, testing. And we're to the point now where I wanted to get this in front of you, the council, so that you can read through it and go through it and look it over and make sure that it is accurately representing what we as a city are trying to develop as a general plan. Now, let me just remind everybody, a general plan isn't this is what we're going to do. This is putting into place planning for the city for future. Now, things could change, things could happen. The golf course may never ever sell. It may remain a golf course for a long, long time, which is fine. But all this is a plan to say, if this ever happens, then this is what we envision happening in this area. So just want to make you aware of that. I'm very pleased with how it has turned out. Recommendations, and the amount of work that's gone into it. I feel pretty comfortable with what the proposal is. That being said, we will be having some public open house meetings where the public will be able to come in and review the general plan. We took their feedback and we applied what their feedback was to the plan. It may not be exactly what residents want to see. And that's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be, because we're not going to make everybody happy, but it's a document that provides the city some direction in the future when you guys aren't here and other people are making decisions.
And even prior to that open house, we as a council and city staff talked about, as a committee, talked about our ideas and thoughts. So, I mean, there's several tiers of planning that have gone into this.
Yes, yes. And before it gets approved, there will be another open house. So, yes. So that's our general plan. If you would please take time over the next little while to go through this. And if you have any questions or if there's any concerns, if you would let me know. What I want to make sure is that when we go into the meeting with Landmark and the residents, that we're all on the same page, because that doesn't look good when we're not on the same page either. So
what are you looking for from us in the next?
what I'm looking
few
for
weeks?
is for you guys to go through this and become familiar with it. And if there's anything in there that you feel is not correct, Councilmember Moss has talked to me about a couple things that we've got fixed in here. But if there's things in here that you feel aren't correct, then let me know. I'm not looking for big, huge, massive changes. Like I thought we were going to have 6,000 condos and not 600. You know, I'm just looking for general recommendations. Okay.
Thanks for giving us the advanced
Notice.
and time to do that, so I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Would you anticipate that we start holding public hearings in January, or are you looking before the end of the year?
Jeff and I are actually going to meet and talk about that, because I've got that same question from Landmark. When would we like to hold a public hearing? Landmark and I both have some hesitancy in holding it now because of Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so we're feeling like getting through the end of the year and into the first of next year makes the most sense. And they are willing to wait. So is Wasatch Front Regional Council. With that being said, I had to turn in a report this last week to the state, because we are required to adopt a general plan, a moderate income housing plan, and now a water conservation plan. It just so happens that we're working on all of them. But in my report to the state, I let them know that we were in the process of adopting our plans, and we have 90 days to get those adopted. So that will put us the end of January. I can get an extension. That won't be a problem, but they're going to hold our feet to the fire to get these plans adopted.
What would be the harm in doing one in the first meeting of November? I mean, that's not that close to.
I have to notice it, and we're at the end of October, and I don't have enough
It's too
time to
late.
notice it. And I just got this. And so I didn't want it to look like we were trying to rush it to get it approved.
You know, Andy brought up the sticky notes on the posters. How did you collate that for this general plan? I'm only in, you know. 40
Landmark did
pages.
it.
Landmark did it.
Landmark did it. And they're collated by category. If
Yes.
you look in there, it's more like,
Yeah, I'm
you know,
not all the way through
if
it
their
yet.
comment was related to land use, or if their comment was related to
Town
public
centers,
services, or-
cemeteries, open space,
Yeah.
trails.
And so they took all those comments and they've quoted them word for word in the different centers.
If you
Are
go
we
to
gonna
page.
keep those comments in the general plan? Will that be part of the general plan?
Yeah, I think the plan is to show that the
There was
questions
input.
were asked, so that in in the future, when you're not sitting there and another body's sitting there, they can say, well, yeah, actually the general plan did address, or there were questions related to this.
That's
So
why
it's
it's so
to-
long. Is this the
yeah.
average size for?
This is a small general plan.
City. How do you feel, since you've been in office or been working here for so long? What are the highlights that have been changed from the one that was done in 2005? That is not this long.
This has a lot of detail in it.
Yeah,
It has a lot of supporting documentation and a lot of supporting statistics
yes.
that the other one didn't have. I actually worked on with the company that we had do the last
Back
one.
in
Mhm.
2005.
Back in the day.
And
Back
we
in the day.
included in this one is plan for the golf course.
Yeah.
Which I am totally on board.
Plan for it. Does anyone have any questions for Brandon about this?
Yeah, thank you so much for working on all three of those things for the state.
So
You're welcome.
I would throw out the suggestion of doing a open house on the second Tuesday.
In January.
What,
Maybe we do it 2 days. Maybe we do it a Tuesday and a Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, something along those lines.
I think that's a good idea.
And then gives us the chance after that to review, discuss for the third Tuesday of January. And then if we need to extend, we can go into February, the first meeting in February.
Can I make one comment there, Mayor?
Yeah,
The second January meeting is the 17th, and the 16th is a holiday. It's Martin Luther King. And
no, that's the third, January.
no, he said the second, what'd you say, the second meeting or the second Tuesday?
second Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah, the second Tuesday is the.
the
10th.
10th. Okay, then that works.
Maybe the 10th and 11th,
Yeah,
something along those lines. We can talk later, but
yeah. I was going to talk to Jeff and see, and then also landmark design, but I will definitely take those dates.
great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Do you want to just move right into the 4.2?
Yeah, let's just talk really quick about moderate income housing plan. Again, a requirement by the state of Utah that all cities adopt a moderate income housing plan. We have, as a city, identified 5 strategies. Those 5 strategies are as follows: rezone for densities, create or allow for and reduce regulations related to internal or detached dwelling units. Now, remember that our ordinance doesn't allow for detached, but it does allow for internal accessory dwelling units. So we're using strategy number 2. Our third strategy is to zone or rezone for higher density or moderate income residential development. Our fourth strategy is to implement zoning incentives for moderate income units in new developments. And our fifth one is to reduce, waive, or eliminate impact fees related to moderate income housing. Because of the demographic of our city, I think there was 26 things that we could choose from. And really the only ones that we could even try and meet are the moderate income housing ones, which are the 5. So that's why you hear a lot of higher density, reduce.
So
It's a challenge for us, and having housing that can be considered moderate income is difficult because the price of ground in Fruit Heights is not moderate. So it's tough, but we have to make an effort. We have to show that we're making an attempt. If the city chooses not to do this, then the state will withhold our B and C road funds. So that's the money we get from the state to help maintain our roads. It's $180,000 a year. That could be argued, well, maybe it's worth not getting that $180,000 a year. Actually, the money's worth getting. And so I think we need to be compliant with what the state of Utah is requiring us to do. And we're going to fill the council chambers every time we get a development in here that has more than 12,000 square feet,
less than.
or less than 12,000 square feet of buildable area, which is our R112 zone.
Which has already
Um,
happened in the last.
Yeah, it's going to continue to happen. I truly believe that if the project's done correctly, it will be an added value to our city because property is only going to become more and more difficult, especially in Davis County. And we need to be aware of the needs of everybody, not just our own needs. So.
Councilmember Moss, did you have something to say?
I did. Dying to say something.
the chair.
She
Question,
forgot.
question
move on.
for our city planner. Right now, we do have that R13 zone, which is basically the catch-all for anything that's less than 10,000 square feet. And in our plan, it talks about some transitional type of housing. And so I'm wondering if we could, as a city, implement an R16 zone. And the reason I say that is because once you dump into that R13, it encompasses such a large variation. And maybe if you had an R16, it would be a better transition zone for between an R110 and an R3.
We have a hard time getting R18 zones approved. So, I mean, we can.
Well, I don't see what that would harm to look at that.
Yeah, we can look at it, Jeff.
And I think if push comes to shove and somebody says, well, I want this R13 zone because I want, 6,000 square foot lots, which I think it is in the Cherry Heights development, aren't those about 6,000 square foot lots? Am I thinking the wrong place?
That's right.
So,
That's about what they are.
So, and that's a very pleasant little, it's done as a PRUD, right? Because we didn't have the other tools in place. But for someone who has maybe less land than a PRUD would take, if we had an R16 zone that would give us that opportunity to grant that instead of the R3 zone, I just wonder if that might be something that could be part of this.
So,
Yeah, we could look at that.
so I'll be very candid. The last R18 that we just saw was really challenging to pass.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of community members and neighbors that came out and stomped their feet out of R18. So, and to think that we're going to start passing R16s is very improbable with the amount of land that we have left.
But if it's a choice between an R16 and an R3,
But in the R3, we can zone for 6,000 square foot lots, but have to have so much open space and so much acreage, right, Jeff, under the R3 zone? So.
I think it's something worth looking at, but I wouldn't tell you to lose too much sleep over that. We don't have developments coming in on a daily basis wanting anything lower than R18.
We can definitely look at the R16 zone, single family, 6,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
And the setbacks and all of that. And then we can work with the planning commission on that as well. That'd be a land use.
and then if something like the golf course does ever develop, then that R16 can be part of that transition into the higher density that you're looking for in the middle.
Is any of Orchard Farms R16?
The condos, the townhomes, that's all
All
R3. It's R3 and then it's R18. But it's R3, it's all R3.
And that's why I'm wondering just to put in another little,
Good.
something that would accommodate something like a Cherry Heights without it having to be a PRUD.
Yeah.
For transition housing.
Yeah. We'll look at that. And then just one last thing. We will be working on our water conservation plan as well, and wrapping that up. It's all but there, just tying all the loose ends together to help get that as part of our plan. And I think we might be the first city to have all three done at one time.
Yes.
Hey,
So-
so before you leave, actually, let's talk about 4.3.
Yes.
Discussion on subdivision and development updates.
Yes.
Can I?
I just want to,
Hold on.
I just, I
Okay.
just, back on where we are still.
okay,
Can I do that one more time?
Yes.
Okay, so my question on the moderate income, or on the general plan type of thing is, there's a lot of bullet points, things to implement. So assuming that if we pass this, then it starts creating this big kind of list
To-do
of,
list.
a big to-do list, you know, put the types of trees that can be in park strips because people are planting too big of trees, do this, do this, do this, do this by 2030, do this by 2040. And there becomes quite a list in there, doesn't there?
yeah, it does become quite a list, but all of this stuff will be worked into our projects. So when Darren and I and Jeff and Brandon Jones and whoever else, the council, when we sit down to go through our capital projects, we're looking for places that we can put streetlights. We're looking for ways that we can do traffic calming. We're looking, so yeah, we will be implementing what we put in here into our capital projects plans. And slowly over time, just like what we've done with our water lines and our storm drain lines and what we're trying to do with our streets, is slowly over time, we'll start implementing and building that stuff into our city infrastructure. You know, subdivisions, they're going to be holding to this general plan. So
Thank you for letting me ask the question there.
You're welcome. I will actually just say one thing that Mr. Bush talked about, and I would encourage you to drive up on Mahogany Road and look what Darren has done over the past few weeks. We had a,
Oh, that's great. We sit down every night and watch people go down that walk. And we needed to do something, so glad we did something.
go look at
We're
it.
talking safety, you're talking traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go look at it. It's actually really, really creative, and I love it. We've had a lot of problems there. We've had a lot of complaints.
And we had a bad accident.
We had a bad accident earlier this year, or earlier this summer. Brandon, Darren came up with a really creative idea for fairly cost effective. And I like it. I think it's a great, but I encourage you to go up and drive Mahogany.
don't drive it as fast as you can. Go the speed limit.
Go the speed limit. Do you want to move on to item number 4.3, Brandon?
Yeah, 4.3. I just want to bring you up to speed on where we're at with a couple of our developments. The Matlow development, it's along the east bench between Bear Creek and what used to be the old uranium mine. That is well underway. They have, the city gave them final approval to get phase one started and constructed. And so they've been up there installing their underground infrastructure. There's some things that they're still working through, Bureau of Reclamation and the aqueduct and the crossing of those. I got the agreements just yesterday or the day before. So I believe that's all taken care of. And the last little item is just the Bureau sign off on the Bear Creek crossing. Davis County Flood Control has done their approval, just waiting for the BOR's approval.
How far out are we on that?
We're probably another month away on that approval.
Will that
Right
go
there.
to planning commission before it comes to us?
No, no. But it will come, it won't come to you for any kind of an approval. I take that back.
Phase two
Yes,
better come to us.
It will be coming to you because we've got some ground that will be trading with Hates Creek. So it will be going to the planning commission and it will be coming to you. So yes, there will be approval.
Okay.
The next one is a development that we're just in the very beginning phases of. This next Tuesday night, we'll be doing a rezone request for the Barker property, which is about 22 acres just north of Matt Lowe's development. So if you exit Highway 89 onto Mountain Road northbound, it's the property that you see right in front of you. So you exit northbound onto Mountain Road. The Barkers sit right there. It's the old nursery. Been working with their developer or with their developer. And things have been moving along pretty well. So we anticipate that zoning request from A1 to R112 will be approved. It will be coming to the city council as well for some approval, but I want to make sure that we don't get too attached to the site plan that you see there. That's just a rendering of what could potentially happen and not this is what we're going to do. But I will say that all of the lots are at least 12,000 square feet or larger.
So would they consider R16?
They,
I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
It's something to ask, right?
hey,
I have a
we
question.
just run it up the flagpole.
I have a question about that then. So since we're trying to have all of these moderate income housing plans and there's supposedly, what do you call them, rewards for doing that, higher density and things. Are they being offered that, or is that not something that's in place yet?
It's not in place right now because we haven't adopted that. So no, they're not.
I have a question too.
Yes.
Yes.
In our general plan, isn't that corner there shown as a commercial potential?
So there is, if I can go. That little piece right there is currently zoned commercial, but when they did their geotechnical study, the Wasatch Fault actually runs through there. So because of our SLEDS ordinance, our sensitive lands ordinance, that piece of property can't be developed for anything. It has to remain open space. So I believe their plan is going to be to put a detention basin on that site because they also have to provide on-site detention for their subdivision. They can't just direct discharge into our storm drain system. They've got to detain. But the piece to the north of that, further north, I believe on our general plan just does show that as a site for potential, some other use other than residential. Just before you leave the city of Fruit Heights and enter Kaysville, there's a piece up there.
So, in looking through the general plan, one of the things that is perhaps, in my opinion, missing a little bit is the idea of a pocket park of some sort on the north end, but we do have that F or 6F property that we have the potential to do something with there, which would service this type of community as well as the surrounding area.
Well, but the development here,
But that's not a place for 3-year-olds to go play.
that's all open space, but it could be. I mean, just because it's steep doesn't mean that in a flat spot, there couldn't be a place created for, it's not all 30% slope. It's just most of it is. So there could be, that open space will remain part of the development. It's not being turned over to the city
Be
by any
managed
means.
by an HOA.
Yeah, I believe that's how it's going to work. But there will be opportunities. Yeah, the 6F property that we get from UDOT, we haven't determined what that exactly is going to look like yet. So
my only comment, and obviously the rendering is a rendering, but I would encourage some in the northwest section right off of the 400 North parcel. If there is any possibility of doing a little more higher density in that area, I would encourage it. Something that looked nice, something that is conducive, look nice, and did not detract from the curb appeal of the city.
well, we can, and that may come up in planning commission this next Tuesday night.
And I would agree with that, and especially at that spot because it's close to the ride
Train, the park and ride right across the street.
and the
It's-
bus. That seems like a perfect spot to do that.
Unfortunately, that land is privately held. and we don't have total say of what happens on it. We can just make some suggestions. I don't think the whole area needs to be high density, but I think a small section of it could be put aside to a little more higher density. But I'd like to see what planning commission and the developer come up with.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely have that discussion.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. Do you, council, have anything else?
Nope. Let's go through. We had a couple people attended the League of Cities and Towns. I'd love to give you a few minutes on what you learned and what you gained from that meeting.
Thank you. It was really interesting for me, especially since I'm new, but Eileen and I had a good time. I went to a class on wildfire risk assessment, and these teachers were from Summit County, and that was interesting. There's more grants available if we want to try for those. Another one that I went to was social media, and it wasn't just social media, it was all ways of contacting. And so I have some ideas there if we want to go over them. I went on a green bike tour. They gave us an opportunity to go on a tour on a bike, and what they've done is they've created a path that goes from downtown out to 10th West. You have to cross the railroad tracks a couple of times, and then we didn't have time to go further, but it goes all the way on a dirt path to the river. And so they've worked really hard on that, but that was kind of fun to see. And then there were a lot of good things, good speakers during lunch and stuff. The governor came. There was a good panel discussion on water, on housing, and they encouraged us to think regionally instead of just locally in water problems and housing. And the guy on what do you call it, homeless, there's such a problem there, and they're trying to help place people and rehabilitate and things. And he said, even if every city would just do a unit of 25, if every city had just 25, you don't have to build 100 or 60, but if every city had just 25, that would really help us. And then probably the most 25 units
For homeless
yeah, well,
or low
kind of
income?
like low-income apartments where
Section
like
8.
our city plan, or no, I guess it was the other one, has all those different ideas on programs to help people that are transitioning. So something like that, I think, is what they meant.
So some of the bounce back from that was also services that are available. So you can't put people that don't have cars in high density, but if there's a bus route, you can. So.
And then I think the most impressive speaker was the one who survived 9/11. He was the highest ranking firefighter who survived, and he was in the North Tower when it fell. And I mean, we're all eating lunch, but we're all like, do we dare keep clinking? Because his I don't know, it was just a really impactful presentation that he did. And he kind of promoted his book, but if you want his name, if you want to look at that book, he's a really good storyteller, so it would be a good book. Thanks for sending us.
Yeah, thanks for going. Eileen, did you have something to add on that?
So a couple things that I wrote down is the first one I went to was that Todd Godfrey presented, which is,
He's always entertaining.
he is entertaining. He has replaced David Church, who is also entertaining in things that we should and shouldn't be doing as a council. And so a couple things he said is that we are here as a city to promote a sense of community, to provide municipal services, and to regulate, with regulate being the third on the list, not the first on the list. And so he pointed that out. He said, as we are thinking about zoning, he said, you need to remember that no court in Utah has overturned a council zoning decision. So, But he says it's a good idea to state our reasons in our motions, or as we're opposing, it's fine to state why, or if you're in support, you can state why. He suggests that we don't ever meet one-on-one with developers. And also, if you're having public hearings, he said that we should let people comment without asking their questions, without answering their questions, just let people comment. And then after you close the public hearing, then you've hopefully made a list and can address those questions. We talked about one of the ideas that one of the classes I went to is talking about trails, and I've talked with Brandon a little bit about this idea that maybe mahogany, that trail that comes off of that needs to be turned into to more of a trail that is conducive for all members of the community. If we put a road up there, to have a Sharrow type of situation where it's a hard packed surface, so that people with strollers can go up there, or those kinds of situations. So it's not just the mountain bikers, and that maybe that would be an additional access up to there. Roger too has been with the league for many, many years, talking about the local option sales tax, and the fact that there are just so many wants and needs in a small community, and trying to balance that, making our priorities, and so in regard to that, he talked about making our priorities align with our programs and costs. So not all, we have all these wants, we can't always do them. And so make sure that your programs and your costs align. And then so one of the things they talked, I'm going to bring up one more thing on that, is they talked about as we're doing this, there are things that seem nice, but how many members of the community are we serving? And, Fruit Loops is very nice, and we serve the larger community, but we have to be careful because that's not a moneymaker for us. And so as we bring those people in to our community without extracting any dimes from their wallets, it becomes a little bit problematic sometimes for where you get on the road and what it does to the actual community. So you have to, suggested that, and this wasn't Roger, this is a different one, but suggesting that we figure out how to extract some dimes out of pockets on some of those things for
Which
people.
you mentioned before.
Yes, for people who are bringing into the community. Also on the idea of growth in the city, I went to one talking about this transitions between the higher density housing, the lower density housing. And it was suggested in there that in our general plan, and I think it is with what we've seen tonight, that in our general plan, you work on things. So if you allow lower density housing, you have some or higher density housing, you have some standards in there, because some things hold up better over the years than others, and some things will turn very slummy looking very quickly if we don't have those standards written in. So that's.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Diane, did you have anything?
I don't have anything tonight.
Gary?
I don't really have anything except for I would just like when Darren goes over just to touch on the Nichols and the pipeline. So if you could just touch on that.
George?
There was an email from the YCC. If you wanted to respond to that and be a part of that, yeah, I'll just invite you for that. So
Great.
I have a question. And then there was that email from that man about fiber optics. Do we need to do anything about that, or is anybody?
I didn't see one.
From Peter Davis.
Mhm.
You answered him.
I answered him just because I thought somebody should.
Yeah, that was good.
But I didn't know what to
I
say
didn't see that.
except thank you.
He had some suggestions on how to increase internet.
Oh, maybe it didn't come to you.
Are you talking about fiber optic?
Yeah.
We got 3 fiber, we got Connect, Google, and another one, and they'll all be coming in within the next little while. And then, as Andy very well knows, Comcast decided that they wanted to run fiber throughout the city this week. And I've gotten several calls from residents that are concerned about the way that's going about. But we're getting the right way of using them.
So could we-
Brandon, do you mind answering Peter with that information in that letter?
I didn't,
Did it come,
I don't think I got it.
Do you want me to
Forward it to me.
forward it to
Brandon?
both of you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I guess that just came to the council.
I just have one small, well, it's not small, but I have an ask. December 11th is the Christmas in the Community. Barbara Swenson is chairing that again.
Yay.
Pastor Don Kraft is going to be, he's got a musical number and he will be reciting part of Luke in that presentation. We have been asked to help this year, and we are responsible for the chocolate, the hot chocolate and the donuts.
We can do that.
They will have a tent, they'll have it out. We need to get it. I've talked to Brandon really quickly about it. It might be the best bet just to get a whole bunch of hot water and then have people mix their own. Have a little packet and hand out a packet with a cup, allow them to mix it, as well as just a small refreshment. I will talk about that later, but I just wanted to make you aware that we're going to need many hands on that. So probably you and a spouse, if you can be around to help with that, that'd be very, very helpful.
That's fun.
Excellent. Darren or Jeff, do you have anything? Actually, Jeff, do you have anything?
I just got a small commentary that I thought I'd pass along. I spent the day today at a water conference all day, where experts from all over the state of Utah and beyond, including federal people, talked about the state of water in Utah. And they talked about everything from the Colorado River to the Great Salt Lake to our rivers and reservoirs. And it's really quite amazing the minds and the ideas that are coming together to talk about things that can be done. But what's interesting is that the best experts in the state, the best water managers, are all saying the same thing. They're saying everything that we can do, everything that we're doing are Band-Aids. They're merely Band-Aids. And unless Mother Nature turns on the water tap, we're in a bad way. And I thought that was interesting. Now, I don't know what that means to all of us, but
Saving 8 however many million gallons that we saved this year was just a Band-Aid too.
It's a Band-Aid. They use the example of in 2021, we were at nearly 89% snowpack for the year, but only 30% of that ran off and into reservoirs because everything's so dry that everything, plants and the ground and everything else, is just sucking up too much water. This year in 2022, because of the monsoon rains we got in the middle of the summer, not northern Utah so much, but southern Utah, we hit average annual rainfall at the Salt Lake International Airport. We hit the average. So we hit average. But they says the problem with that is that rain runs off into reservoirs for a few hours. Snowpack runs for weeks, fills up reservoirs for weeks. They says we just we have to have more snow if this is going to change. But I just thought all that was interesting. I just thought I'd pass along a few of those ideas and know that there are lots of people talking about lots of things and what we can do. And I think we'll see more and more of that, but it's an interesting commentary.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Darren, can you give us an update on a few things?
So I'll start with the Weaver Basin project, which is right there on Mountain Road. They're getting right close to the end of that right now. They've got dug up for tie-ins. Pretty much all the pipe is ran. They're filling and flushing and doing all those tests right now. So I expect within probably next week, they'll start planning their tie-ins for that, once they get their test results back. As far as our projects.
Sorry, with that, are they going to be able to asphalt before?
It is scheduled to start asphalting October 31st.
Because we have till November 1st is the deadline, isn't it?
Depending on temperatures.
Okay.
If temperatures will stay up, last year we paid clear until Thanksgiving. So just with temperatures.
So are they going to pull out the small black pipe that they put in, or will that
Yes.
stay there? Okay.
That all comes out. So as soon as they do the tie-in to the new line, then they'll go in and pull that whole pipe out and then get ready to pave.
Okay.
So you should see that starting to happen, I would think probably middle to end next week. As far as our projects on our water lines, we finished the water line on Cherry and Jost. We're scheduled to asphalt next week on that. The trench is back, and we have done our back tees on our water line on 1400. So they got another water line pretty much completed, and that we're hoping that we can get the services over and be able to get that patched when they're doing Cherry next week. So hopefully that'll continue to go good. Nichols Road with Highway 89, by the end of the year, that'll all be opened. I don't know if you've been over there, but they got a lot of crews working there. They'll be pouring concrete tomorrow for the abutments for the bridge. So that will all be ready to get tied in. And then they poured one of the walls today on the bridge. They'll form up the other one probably towards the end of the week and get that one done. Curb and gutter will be going in hopefully next week. I talked to them today. So to finish up the curb and gutter between Lloyd Road and all the way over to Green Road, they're hoping they can have that started next week and completed next week. So on that project, so they are really pushing to get Nichols Road finished and tied in. But they're telling me by the end of the year that Nichols Road, 400 North, and Cherry Hill will all be completed. I meet with engineer and a foreman for each. So I'll meet with one set for Cherry Hill, one for Nichols, and one for 400 North. And we'll start going through that whole thing and begin walkthroughs and anything that needs to be finished, anything that needs to be changed, any of that stuff, we will start beginning that in 2 weeks. So that will start happening here really pretty quick too, so that they can get this section completed. The power meter was set for the lights up there. I actually talked to Cache Valley Electric today on my way home. And they'll should start tying that all in. So all the lights up there at 400 North should be coming on here pretty quick.
Okay.
Cool.
And
So is that 1400 East 650 North project?
okay, so the Quail Ridge project, I also got that one. The one we were with the county and that and Weaver Basin, they've got the water line in. They got a tie-in to do, but they've got all the services tied over this week. Their curb and gutters going in, and so we're hoping we can get that 650 paved and ready here within the next week or two to be paved.
And John Whitchurch wants to know if that means that they get a street sign for their condo road.
For the, just in,
Shelter's also asking for a sign.
down at the bottom or just where it goes in? Yeah, I might even have one for that,
He
so.
said you told him a while back you ordered one, so.
So I just need to go through all the signs because I don't know exactly what was ordered, what wasn't ordered. And so, and then once again, mahogany, we tried something new up there. Striping is all done except for the crosswalks and stop bars. But as far as the streets that we're trying to get done this fall, they're all striped. So If you get a chance, drive down Mahogany, look at the obstacle course down there too. Nope.
So Darren was telling me that we approved the striping project. And they said, we'll be in a week. And then later that afternoon, we're on our way. We'll be there in 15 minutes. Are you ready for us?
So it's all ready to rock and roll.
That's how construction works, right?
And what about this trail along the that Brandon was talking about with UDOT? Is that something that will happen?
They aren't going to do anything with that until they get done with that is not a necessity, right?
So that'll be next spring,
Yeah, it'll be.
Next fall,
that'll be
maybe.
Very end of the project.
next year.
End
Okay,
of- End of next year.
okay.
Go ahead, Fawn.
So what about the driveways that still need to be repaired?
That, when I start meeting with all the engineer and the foreman for each section, we'll be going over all those things that haven't been completed. Some of them, you know, that as I talk to them, they're like, people can get in and out now. We're trying to finish up all these things to get everything. I would say, yes, at the end of the project, everything will be finished. When I talk to Rance and those guys, they would like to finish Fruit Heights City 100% and then just continue to move north. So, if they'll do that, that'll be great, but we'll see when I start meeting with everybody.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have.
Brandon, do you have something?
And just have, just one little thing, we sent out on social media. Karen did we want to know your questions, so we're gonna run every few weeks a top question. And just post it out there on Facebook. We get a lot of the same questions, so we thought, you know what, maybe it makes sense to just answer those questions and post them out on Facebook. So, watch for that.
I think it's a great idea. If your gals in the office with this display, it's been quite a tongue wagger in the city.
Yeah, there are a lot of people
It's
that
been fun.
come in today and say how much she's enjoyed it. So,
Who painted the pumpkins?
The office, school pumpkins, and we're gonna participate in the pumpkin walk on the 26th if the weather is accommodating. It's supposed to be raining on the 26th.
Great. Thank you. That is all that's on our agenda, and I would look for,
Move that we
I had one
adjourn
question.
go ahead,
after her
Eileen.
question.
When is the city Christmas party scheduled?
It's not.
We're not having one?
Nope.
Why?
No, we probably will. It just hasn't been scheduled.
Okay.
Get on
We
that.
should schedule it.
I will get on that. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
I have a motion from Diane, second from Gary. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. It is 8:02.